World War I, as we know, broke out in July of 1914. What most people do not know is that the persecutions of the indigenous Hellenes, the Greeks of Eastern Thrace, had begun a few months earlier. Already by the beginning of the war, there were something like 300,000 refugees in Greek territory, in Greece, from the Eastern Thrace and the coast of Asia Minor. The Greek population had been systematically expelled, looted of all their assets. This was happening from about the end of 1913, beginning of 1914, right through to the beginning of World War I. This is really important to remember, that the genocide process began in the Ottoman Empire before World War I. World War I, and especially the catastrophic defeat of the Ottoman army at a battle called Sadi Kamish, is what provoked the massacres, starting with the Armenians and the Assyrians in the eastern part of the empire.
On behalf of Armenian Australians, I wish to express my sincere condolences on this day commemorating the Greek genocide. I look forward to continuing to walk shoulder to shoulder with our Greek and Assyrian sisters and brothers until recognition of the genocide suffered by our ancestors is achieved in Australia and justice is delivered. We remember, we demand.
The Pontian Greek, Armenian and Assyrian genocide of 1915 will remain an event that is forever ingrained in the collective identity of our communities in the diaspora. On behalf of the Armenian Youth Federation of Australia, we would like to pay our utmost respect and condolences to the Pontian Greek Australian community in their time of grievance and remembrance. 105 years on, as descendants and survivors of the genocide, we demand for justice for our ancestors, and we hope to reflect on the tragedies that befell them and hope to continue to share the cultures and the customs that they passed down to us.
My name is Hermes Shaheen, and on behalf of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation, I would like to thank the Federation of the Pontian Association of Australia for organizing this important event, as well as our friends who are following today's commemoration from their own homes. Assyrians, Armenians, and Greeks have learned the importance of working together to continue to educate our new generation about this horrific genocide by the Ottoman Empire, and to obtain justice to the innocent souls that perished as a result of the genocide. It's our duty, everyone's duty, to remember and observe episode of genocide forever. Thank you.
Αγαπητής Έλληνας, εμείς θα ξεχνάμε τη γενοκτονία με τους Έλληνας, Αρμίνοι και Ασσυριών. Τα άλλα θα το πω στα Εγγλέζικα. Εγώ είμαι ο Ιάκωβος Χαβίλ. On May the 19th, we extend to all Greek Australians our friendship and prayers. The Assyrian community stands side by side with all Greek people in pursuit of justice. We remain with you today, tomorrow, and forever.
It is no coincidence that once the bulk of the Armenian population and the Assyrian population had been destroyed or deported out of, away from the battlefields into the deserts of what is now northern Syria and northern Iraq, to places like Deir Zor, where the Euphrates River, which is so important, it's the lifeblood, both of northeast Syria and of Iraq, were choked with corpses. The waters were so polluted they could not be drunk. In some places where the river bent, the corpses actually formed dams that needed to be cleared to enable the water to flow again. This is all documented particularly by German servicemen. So by 1916, 1917, with the bulk of the Armenian and the Assyrian population destroyed or deported, scattered, leaderless, is when the Ottoman government, the Turkish state, started turning its attention to the Greeks. Eastern Pontus was under the control of the Russians at this time. So Western Pondos is what copped the hammer blow at this time. So we're talking about places like Kastamoni, Sinope, Pafra, Neokesaria, and this is why so many Pondians in Australia and in Greece and scattered around the world, their people, their relatives, their ancestors are from Eastern Pondos. 1918, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and surrendered. First, Bulgaria surrendered in September of 1918. In October of 19, with the famous Armistice of Mudros. And this is where the first phase of the genocide ended. The survivors started going home from about October, November of 1918. A new democratic government was installed in Constantinople to negotiate a peace treaty with the Allies. And there was still a number of people, the elements, the bureaucrats, the military leadership that was resisting any sort of compromise, any sort of surrender of what they considered Turkish territory. 19 May 1919, the beginning of the Kemal or the nationalist revolution inside Turkey. Mustafa Kemal understood that he needed allies in this fight. So he turns to the Bolsheviks, who were also isolated. They were fighting a civil war inside Russia to control the Russian Empire. The hammer blow fell first and fell most extensively in the east, this time Eastern Pondos, as the White Russian forces withdrew. A short-lived attempt to create a federation between Pondos and the newborn Republic of Armenia was completely destroyed, particularly by the efforts of Kazim Karabashir, one of Mustafa Kemal's generals. So by 1921, the focus turned west. And this is why on May 1919 is marked as the memorial day of the Pondian genocide, or the genocide of the Hellenes of Pondos, because this is where the blow fell hardest first. By burning these villages, by destroying these homes, these churches, the message was very clear: you have no place here. If you stay, you will die. The end of the war between the Greek army and Kemal's army, by then the Turkish army, in August of 1922, the beginning of September of 1922, it was finished with as was called by the National Geographic, the Holocaust of Smyrna. Smyrna was destroyed by fire. Although there have been repeated accounts over the years, efforts by the Turkish state to lay the blame either on Armenians or on the retreating Greek soldiers, every contemporary account points the finger at Kemal's soldiers systematically looting and then burning the entire Christian part of the city, which was more than 3/4 of the entire city. This is the Holocaust of Smyrna, which we commemorate in September. This was September 1922. All non-Muslims were to leave Turkish-controlled territory by the end of November 1922. This was obviously pushed out by a few months because it was just physically impossible to get everybody out, those who survived. The last ones did not leave, and the last ones to leave were from Cappadocia in 1924. And this is why we say that the Hellenic genocide was between 1914 and 1924.